Hello, and welcome to our webinar about the 2019 Research and Innovation Staff Exchange Call. My name is Diana Votruba, and together with Sibylla Martinelli, who will present the second half of this webinar, we are the two national contact points for the Maria Skłodowska-Curie actions in Switzerland. Today, we will inform you about RISE, which is one of the Maria Skłodowska-Curie actions that provides funding for international and intersectoral staff exchanges within a consortium. First, I would like to quickly explain the setup of this live webinar. You can see the slides of the presentation on the big window, the speaker's picture on the right corner. Importantly, there is also the possibility to write us your questions. You see this chat on the right side as well. We'll try our best to answer your questions during the webinar. However, if we miss to answer your question, please write us an email to the address that will be displayed in a moment. Here it is. So, besides the webinar chat, you can always send us your question to MSCA at euresearch.ch. Euresearch has also a YouTube channel. The replay of today's presentation will be available later on this very channel. Let me give you an overview of what to expect today. First, I will give a short introduction to the Maria Skłodowska-Curie action and what RISE is all about. Then we will have a look at the timeline and the different eligibility conditions you need to consider. In the second half, my colleague Sibylla Martinelli will share some insightful statistics, such as the success rate of the last RISE call. She will comment on the most important documents for you to consider and how you can look for partners, give some information to the submission process as well. Then the structure of the proposal will be introduced. And last but not least, some information on what kind of support we can offer for the proposal preparation. So, before we dive into the details of the RISE funding scheme, let me start with some background information. The famous Maria Skłodowska-Curie is the name giver for this funding program. The woman who grew up in Poland and conducted most of her influential research in France was convinced that science should be international. She wrote, "After all, science is essentially international, and it is only through a lack of historical sense that national qualities have been attributed to it." Now, the funding scheme RISE aims to foster such a shared culture of research and innovation, and thus fits perfectly in Marie Curie's vision. We are thus very glad that since 2017, Switzerland is again fully associated to the Age 2020. And thus, no restriction on participation for Swiss researchers and institutions do exist. The Maria Skłodowska-Curie actions are part of the Excellent Science pillar of the Age 2020. Programs in this pillar are supposed to raise the level of excellence in Europe's science base and attract world-class researchers to Europe. If you apply for any of the Maria Skłodowska-Curie actions, it is wise to know the policy background that comes with this action very well and keep them in mind while writing your proposal. Features of Maria Skłodowska actions are the following: that there is an action for every stage of career, that they follow up a bottom-up approach, meaning that the topic is not defined by the European Commission, so applicants are free to choose a research area and topic. As mentioned, a central part is the mobility aspect. In the case of RISE, it is actually all about the mobility. Another central part is the training aspect. But Maria Skłodowska-Curie actions are also about crossing borders in terms of sectors and disciplines. Last but not least, these actions are always about the development of knowledge and enhancement of skills. There are four main types of actions: the individual fellowships, the innovative training networks, co-funds, and RISE. The abbreviation RISE stands for Research and Innovation Staff Exchange. Let's have a look at some general features of this funding scheme. We advise you to read the Maria Skłodowska-Curie Action Work Programme in order to grasp the objective and expected impact. You can find the work programme on the portal called Funding and Tender Opportunities of H2020. Here we can read that the RISE funding scheme promotes international and cross-sector collaboration through exchanging research and innovation staff and sharing knowledge and ideas from research to market and from market to research. The expected impact of a RISE project is defined for three different levels: staff member, organization, and system level. On staff member level, an increased set of skills is expected that leads to a higher employability and career prospect in and outside academia. An enhanced cooperation and transfer of knowledge between sectors and disciplines is envisioned on the organization level. And on the system level, the project should increase international, interdisciplinary, and intersectoral mobility of researchers in Europe. Consider this expected impact carefully when writing your RISE proposal. Now, what are the main features of a RISE project? Well, in your RISE project, you will aim to promote transfer of knowledge. You will form a consortium of organizations from different countries and sectors. It is also possible to include institutions from countries outside Europe. I will expand on that in a moment. Then, together with the participating organizations, you will propose a joint research and innovation program. The RISE project is then implemented by secondment of staff around the consortium, meaning temporary stays from 1 to 12 months in research organizations within that consortium. Staff refers to research students, postdocs, PIs, technical and research admin, or managerial staff. Staff that have appropriate competence to implement the project. Then, secondments should be also completed by networking or training events. Your RISE project can be funded for up to 48 months. Now that we know more about the funding scheme, why should you consider to apply for a RISE project? Well, the Commissioner for Education, Culture, Youth and Sport, Tibor Navracic, said, research and innovation exchanges within a RISE project are a very powerful tool, promoting creativity and entrepreneurship and helping to turn creative ideas into innovative products, services, or processes. They are instrumental in boosting the transfer of knowledge necessary to address Europe's challenge. And here is what RISE offers to individuals. It expands their horizons, enlarges their networks and forges collaborations with research groups and industry worldwide. Individuals receive innovative research training, and RISE is great for developing new career opportunities as well. Then there are the organizations taking part in a RISE project. They can form partnerships with leading research and innovation organizations from across the world. But I might also mention that a RISE project might be your first step on the H2020 funding ladder, as it could also serve as a trial period with the partners for a larger H2020 application. Also, it is an excellent opportunity to build on an existing research collaboration. Now, after introducing what RISE is all about, I will present how you can apply, when and how, and explain the various eligibility conditions. First, about the timeline. Last week, the RISE call opened. The deadline for submission is the 2nd of April next year. In May, the evaluation of proposals will take place, and a month later, the grant preparation will be launched. This means that the applicant will be informed by the beginning of June whether the project receives funding or not. Let's have a look at the various eligibility conditions. Academic and non-academic organizations from the following countries are eligible for funding: EU member states, H2020 associated countries, and some non-associated third countries listed in the General Annex A of the work programme. Non-eligible countries for funding, on the other hand, would be Australia, Brazil, Canada, China, India, Japan, Mexico, New Zealand, Republic of Korea, Russia, and the United States. Within the eligible countries, what are the eligible institutions? There are institutions from the academic sector, such as higher education establishments, non-profit research organizations, as well as international European interest organizations. And importantly, institutions from the non-academic sector are also eligible. Within a consortium, there are different roles and responsibilities: the beneficiaries and the partner organizations. The beneficiaries that are established in a member state or associated country sign the grant agreement and can claim cost directly. Partner organizations, on the other hand, do not sign the grant agreement and cannot claim cost directly. They should include a letter of commitment in the proposal. Institutions from third countries not listed in the annex can participate as partner organization. Beneficiaries and partner organizations are advised to make a consortium agreement prior to the signature of the grant agreement. And who are the eligible staff? With the new work program, the eligibility criteria has become less strict. Eligible staff are those who are actively engaged in or linked to research innovation activities for at least 1 month prior to the first secondment. They can be early stage researchers, experienced researcher, but they can also be managerial, administrative, or technical staff, as long as they have the appropriate competence to implement the project as mentioned already. As such, those with purely administrative role, such as accountants, are not considered to be actively involved in research and innovation, and are thus not eligible for secondments. Let's have a look at the composition of an eligible consortium. The role is that your consortium teams up with at least 3 participants from 3 different countries. Specifically, this means that 2 participants must be from at least 2 different countries of a member state or associated country. The third participant, however, can be from a third country. In case that all participants are from member states or associated countries, there should be at least 1 academic and 1 non-academic participant. As you now know, RISE is essentially about secondments of staff. As seen in the previous slide, there are clearly defined rules, which secondments are funded and which are not. First, there is intra-European exchange. Let's assume you have participants from different sectors within Europe. Secondments can be funded that cross borders and sectors, but secondments within the same country or within the same sectors are not eligible for funding. Then there are the Europe third country exchanges. For secondments between member states and associated countries and third countries, the sector is not of importance. However, secondments within the same country or between different third countries will not be eligible for funding. Thus, what kind of secondments cannot receive funding? So, if a staff member located in Paris seconded to an organization in Marseille, this represents a secondment between institutions located within the same country and will not be funded. If a staff member of an SME located in Latvia seconded to an enterprise in Bulgaria, this represents secondments between organizations belonging to the same sector, located in different member states or associated countries, and thus is not eligible. If a researcher located in an organization in Brazil, a third country, seconded to a university located in the United States, another third country, you assumed right, this will not be funded. Not eligible are also secondments between organizations which are not independent from each other, which is the case when staff member of an SME located in Italy seconded an affiliated SME in China. A RISE project can last for 4 years and every staff member can be seconded for a period of 1 to 12 months. Further, a RISE project can have in total a maximal size of 540 person months. What costs are paid in a RISE project? Funding is based on unit costs. There are the staff member unit costs, here in blue, and there are the institutional costs, including the research, training and network costs as well as the management and the indirect cost. It is important to note that the staff member unit cost does not cover a salary but provides funding to support travel, accommodation and also covers subsistence costs for the staff member during the secondment. There is no country correction factor, so it is the same amount independent of the country of origin where the staff travels for secondment. Now let me hand over the mic to my colleague Sibylla, who will give you a deeper insight into the RISE funding scheme.
After the call deadline, the evaluation of the proposal will take place. There are panels of 8 scientific areas. Evaluation is a peer review process and every proposal is read by at least 3 individual experts. Within every scientific area, a ranking list will be established and projects are funded from top of this list until the budget is exhausted. In the first year of Horizon 2020, 203 proposals were submitted. The success rate was almost at 50% as there was a fixed budget earmarked for RISE. In the year 2015, 363 proposals were submitted and in 2016, 367, which was the highest number. Since then, the number of submitted proposals decreased again. In last year's call, there were 275 proposals submitted. We see here that from the 275 proposals submitted in last year's call, there were 272 eligible and 73 made it to the main list, meaning that they were funded. This resulted in a success rate of more than 25%. A closer look at the 8 scientific panels shows that the number of proposals submitted in the different panels varies a lot. There are, for example, many proposals submitted in the engineering panel and only a few in the mathematics panel. Examples of funded projects can be found on Cordis. You can apply filters to find projects in a specific field or country. There are 2 official documents you will not get around if you are interested in writing a RISE proposals. To the left, the RISE guide for applicants, where you find all the information on the current call and the instructions regarding structure and content of the proposal. And to the right, the MSCA work program for the years 18 to 20, in which, among other things, the policy background is set out. These 2 key documents and a lot more information can be found on the Funding and Tenders portal of the European Commission. This is a brand new portal with which the former participant portal was replaced. I will briefly show you how to access call-related information on this new portal. First, you scroll down. You scroll down and go to Horizon 2020 Framework Program. On the lower right of the side, on the lower right side of the page, you click on Horizon 2020. On the page that opened, you go to Find Calls for Proposals. There you go to Excellent Science, and then you will see all open calls, open and forthcoming calls in the Excellent Science pillar. However, you can filter here to only see the MSCA calls, which makes things a bit easier. It makes it easier to find the call you're interested in, actually. So if you found the call you were looking for, in our case it is the 2019 RISE call, you click on the link and get to the call page. This is the call page. And there on this call page you scroll down and you will find the section Topics, Conditions and Documents. You need to expand this section by hitting the Show More button. And finally, you will get to the documents you need. For example, the guide for applicants for this year's RISE call. So the 2019 guide for applicants, which is the official document containing all the information you need for this year's call. So once you read the guide for applicants and have an idea of how such a project could work, you might want to find suitable partners for your project idea. So what can you do to find partners for such a RISE project? On the RISE call page I just showed you, you will also find a partner search section. For this, you scroll down again, and if you scroll down, you find this here, and there you can find both expertise requests or offers. There is a page dedicated to expressions of interest on the website of the Net for Mobility Plus project, which is an EU project with the aim of facilitating transnational cooperation among NCPs for the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. And as you can see here, there is another partner search opportunity on the Euresearch website. Euresearch is a pan-European initiative delivering information and support services to researchers. And another way of finding partners for your planned project is the dedicated page on the Europe Enterprise Network website, where you can place offers and requests. A good idea is also to activate your network and make colleagues aware of this opportunity. For example, by taking a leaflet on RISE to your next conference. That you can download it on the Net for Mobility Plus website. Or you can send basic information on RISE and an outline of a project idea to interested colleagues. All proposals for this call must be submitted electronically using the electronic submission service of the European Commission, which are accessible from the call page on the Funding and Tenders portal. To get there, you follow the exact same path I explained you before to get to the call page. You choose funding opportunities. Okay, I explained you this before. And then you scroll down the page and then you just push the start submission button. And you will be guided through the submission process. You can start as a submission at any time after the call opening and before the call deadline. And it is important to note that every new proposal version you upload overrides the previous one. So it is advisable to start the submission process early on. And once you started the submission, you will be able to download a rich text format version of the proposal template. Proposals should conform to this layout and to the instructions given in the guide for applicants. There are basically two parts to each RISE proposal, Part A and Part B. In Part A, the applicants will be asked for administrative details and information on the secondments. This information will be used in the evaluation and further processing of the proposal. Part A is an integral part of the proposal. In Section 1 of Part A, you need to provide general information about the proposal. Here you choose, for example, the panel and the descriptors. Also, the abstract is part of Section 1. In Section 2, you are asked to provide data on the participating organizations. For each participating organization, the coordinator should complete the table provided by the online submission system. So here the coordinator indicates the period, duration and the destination of the outgoing secondments planned by each participating organization. Once the secondments plan of all participating organizations is encoded, a summary table indicating the number of secondments allocated to each participating organization and the global number of requests. So the budget is calculated automatically according to the information you feed in Section 2. In Section 4, you need to fill the ethics table, and in Section 5, you will need to answer some call-specific questions. Instructions on how to complete these 5 sections in Part A can be found in the Guide for Applicants from page 33 onward. And now we come to Part B, which contains the details of the proposed RISE project, along with the practical arrangements planned to implement them. Applicants must structure their proposal according to the headings indicated in the template, which, as I mentioned, can be downloaded in rich text format from the electronic submission system. Proposals must conform to this layout and to the instructions given in the Guide for Applicants. And Part B must be submitted as 2 separate documents, B1 and B2. Document B1 comprises one page for the start page, where the proposal acronym is indicated, one page only for the table of content, and the actual core part of the proposal, sections 2 to 4, with a red frame, indicated with a red frame here, describing the project, can be 30 pages long. So the maximum total length of the document 1 is 32 pages. The overall page limit will be strictly applied, and applicants should therefore keep the proposal within the page limits, as experts will be strictly instructed to disregard any excess pages above the 32-page limit. Document B2 must consist of Part B, sections 5 to 8. No overall page limit will be applied to this document, but it is important to respect the instructions given per section. For example, in Section 6, a maximum of 1 page per beneficiary and half page per third country partner organization can be used. So for the ones who would like to know a bit more about the core part of the proposal, sections 2 to 4, we will have a look at the different parts now. We will not have a look in detail, but it is just to give you an idea of what information you should provide. In the first subchapter of the excellence part, your research and innovation goals should be described. Also, the state of the art and how the project will go beyond it should be described, as well as the methodologies and also the inter or multidisciplinary aspects of the planned project. Gender aspects should also be addressed, of course only where applicable. Table B1 needs to be filled. Here, the title of the scientific work packages should give a good idea of the scope of the research or innovation objectives of that respective work package. In subchapter 2.2, the transfer of knowledge goals should be described. It should be described what kind of knowledge will be transferred and how this will be accomplished. It should also be described how the secondments will contribute to the transfer of knowledge, what kind of events are planned and when. It is important to consider both the secondments and the return phases. And it is important to show how the knowledge sharing will contribute to achieving the aims of the research activities described in 2.1. In the third subchapter of the excellence part, you should state what each partner will contribute towards achieving the research and knowledge transfer objectives, including their expertise, their contribution to networking events, and their level of participation in the secondments. Furthermore, you are asked to justify how the networking events described in 2.2 will contribute to the knowledge sharing objectives. You explain here why you have chosen these particular activities and outline the benefits of the knowledge sharing to the participating organizations. It is a good idea to summarize the planned secondments in a secondment table to show who will be where and when. This plan can be included in the excellence section. It is important that it corresponds to the entries you made in part A. Each secondment has to be well justified. In the impact part of the RISE proposal, the expected impact should be pointed out on different levels, like, for example, staff member level, institutions level, and also level of European society. In the first subchapter of the impact part, it should be described who will gain new knowledge and how. Benefits should be pointed out, as for example mutual understanding of working environment in academia or non-academia, or working outside Europe in a different research environment. Researchers benefit of being exposed to other environments, which will help them to enlarge their network, for example, to publish in high impact journals or to bring the outcome to the market, etc. The overall aim is to show an understanding of how participating in the RISE project will help the staff to enhance their potential and improve their career prospects. You should try to make a link to EU policies about research careers and employability. For example, the agenda on new skills and jobs can be found under this link. In this subchapter, a vision of future collaborations should be created. Plans for collaboration after the end of the project should be pointed out. EU policies to international and intersectoral collaboration, for example, the key initiatives of the Innovation Union, can be found under this link. The third subchapter of the impact part is about exploitation and dissemination of the results. The description of such should be as specific and detailed as possible. A clear dissemination plan should be provided, so showing what the key target groups are, how, when, and via which channel they will be reached. It should be described who will eventually benefit from the results. An example of a plan for the exploitation and dissemination of results can be found here. IP rights should be checked with the different institutions involved. And if help is needed, the EU IP Help Desk has a lot of useful information in easily accessible form and language. The last subchapter of the impact part is about the communication of the project activities to different target audiences. Here you should make a plan and try to phrase your key messages according to your audience. It is advisable to work with the network of the different beneficiaries and with their media offices, for example. Check if and how the research results eventually could be of interest and of impact towards society at large in Europe. How would you reach these people, for example, you should describe. And you can use a table for the communication activities, or you can describe them in a specific chapter, or combine both. Go into as much detail as possible and make sure you don't confuse communication and dissemination activities. In this part, you outline the plan for how you will carry out the project you described in the excellence section. The more details you provide, the more concrete and credible the project will appear. In the first subchapter of the implementation part, a work plan needs to be presented. The aim of such is to show that what you propose is indeed feasible and credible. There is a table B2 available in the template which needs to be filled with details. As a rule of thumb, the project should have 3 to 4 scientific work packages, one work package each for management, dissemination and communication or exploitation, and one for transfer of knowledge. And there are even more tables to be filled, as for example the deliverables list and also the milestones list. In the second subchapter of the implementation part, you describe your management structure. Describe the different boards you have and who will report to whom and how decisions will be taken. You outline the role of the coordinator and which kind of support you will have, for example, for administrative tasks. There is a risk table that you should fill in diligently. Try to prepare it together with your consortium. Subchapter 4.3 should not be a duplication of the table in section 6, where you describe the participating organizations. Here you should describe how the participants have the right set of skills, expertise, and the right technical infrastructure, including infrastructure and support services in terms of administration, human resources, or communication. If applicable, include a list in table B3D. You should include and list in this table the beneficiaries or partner organizations that will participate together with other entities under a capital link, and you shortly describe the legal arrangement and the roles of each affiliated entity in the proposal, but only if applicable. In this last section, you should describe why your consortium partners are the only and best to carry out all of the project's tasks. Describe complementarities and synergies as well as previous experiences of the partners and why these enable them to carry out their tasks. The individual members of the consortium are described in section 6, so there is no need to repeat that information in this section. So now you have a rough overview of the content of such a RISE proposal. And you might as well have a lot of questions in the meantime. In the next and last part of our webinar, I will show you where you can get support. If you need support, the EC, the European Commission, as well as the Net for Mobility Plus project, run a frequently asked question, an FAQ page, where you find answers to all sorts of questions. A very useful link is the one to the different help desks, which are accessible via the Funding and Tenders portal. Most useful is the Research Inquiry Service, from which you usually get answers to your questions within very short time. And there is also the link to the national contact points contact details. Please contact the person working in the country where your institution is located. You find the NCP's contact data also very easily accessible on the Net for Mobility Plus webpage, shown here. So for people working at Swiss institutions, you can either contact Diana or myself. We are the ones to contact if you have questions concerning RISE or any other Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions. Or you contact one of our network members working in your region. Euresearch is a network with offices in 10 regions all over Switzerland. The contact details of the people working in the offices in the regions can be found on our homepage. And with this, I would like to thank you for your attention and wish you a lovely day.